When you say the Muslims are the least racist in the world, I just ask a comment about first of all, the Muslim slave trade was very much active. Then also, one of the countries in Africa, I think it's Mauritania,
Mauritania, yes.
that is Muslim-led country where the slave trade is actually active today. So how do you reconcile that?
Now, we said, look, with regards to the slave trade, the Arabs, they were a seafaring nation. They went out to do business, and maybe they were also involved in this quick money, easy money. But those slaves that they carried, if they ever took them to Arabia, you can't find a single slave community in the Arab world. But you see, this Gaddafi of Libya, when you look at him, he's African. Maybe his great-grandfather was a slave. Nasser of Egypt, when you look at him, he looks like an African. Maybe his great-grandfathers were slaves, but that slavery does not remain in the mind of the Arabs that, look, you come from a slave community, your great-grandfather was a slave, so they're all absorbed. But it goes to the credit of the Christians. They took across the Atlantic 25 million Negroes. Christians took them there, not the Arabs. And there are still a landmark there. There are 40 million Negroes there, children of those slaves. And in the Caribbean, this is to the credit of the Christians. So, we say, look, we're not going to start pointing finger at the Muslims. Might have done it, yes. In the name of religion, people have done it. We went to war, First World War, Second World War. In the name of peace, we went to war. Hitler, what he did? I have no right to point a finger at you and say, look, this is Christianity. Oh, America, there are 25 million sodomites in America at the moment, whom you call gays. 25 million. Now, I'm going to say, look, this is your Christianity. No, I have no right to do that. As you have no right to point. I said, Mauritania, look, I don't know. Maybe in their culture the damn thing still exists. But Islam is the foremost. Any excuse, free the slave, any excuse, the Quran lays out for any little mistake you make, is a free the slave. As an expiation for your sin, free the slave. The Bible, there is not one word in the word of Jesus Christ that he ever said free the slave. Muhammad said free the slave. He freed the slave. He himself freed the slave. How? Yes, my son.
Mr. Deidat, Muhammad was, of course, a merchant, so he was involved in the slave trade at that time. Can you think of examples where he freed slaves? Because I do know this, the Christians did free the slaves. In fact, the Negroes in America had the highest standards of living of any black people in the world. They had the highest standard of education of anywhere in the world. The Christians, to their credit, did end the slave trade, starting in Britain, spreading throughout, and America that fought a civil war to end it. Ahead of the Muslims ending slavery in their countries, as far as my understanding of history goes.
Right. With regards to the Prophet Muhammad, at the age of 12, he went out with a caravan journey with his uncle. Then we read again at the age of 25, as an agent for a lady called Khadija, a widow, he went out to do business. And he was no prophet. And he went to deal with business. What did he do business with? He didn't carry slaves with him. From Arabia, where did he get the slaves from Arabia? He was carrying merchandise to go and sell to the people in Syria and to the Lebanon and these areas. There's only 2 trips are accredited to him. One at the age of 12 and one at the age of 25. And there was no slaves involved.
We know this for a fact. There were no slaves.
There were slaves in Arabia.
Yeah, but there were no slaves in his caravan.
No, there were no slaves in his caravan.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, at the age of 40, for the first time, God Almighty communicates with him. Prior to that, he was an ordinary businessman, as you say. Businessman, camel driver. Had he died before the age of 40, we would have never heard his name. He was a good man, accepted as a good man among his people according to their standards. That he was a faithful person, a truthful person. And they gave him that credit. They called him As-Sadiqul Wadul Ameen, a person who fulfills his promises and a man of truth. Trustworthy. That's the title they gave him. So had he died, good people like this exist in all parts of the world at all times. You would never have heard about Muhammad. But at the age of 40, he is in a cave some 3 miles north of the city of Mecca. And he sees a vision. And in that vision, the archangel comes and commands him in his mother tongue, in his Arabic language. Iqra, which means read. And Muhammad, being unlearned, naturally he responds. He's terrified because he was not bargaining for this sort of experience. that he was planning for a graduation ceremony, and it's now taking place. With happiness, he says, we go along to put the cap on and the gown on. No, there was no such preparation. This angel terrifies him, and in trepidation he cries out. He says, "Ma ana biqari'in." He said, "I'm not learned." So the angel of God commands him a second time, "Iqra, read." And again Muhammad says, "Ma ana biqari." He said, "I'm not learned." The third time the angel of God embraces him hard and says, "Iqra bismi rabbika allazi khalaq." So read in the name of thy Lord and Cherisher who created. So now Muhammad grasps that what he was required to do was to repeat. Because this Arabic word Iqra means to read, to recite, to rehearse, to repeat. So he repeated the words. Iqra bismi rabbika allazi khalaq. So read in the name of the Lord and Cherisher who created. So he says, Iqra bismi rabbika allazi khalaq. So khalaqa al-insana min alaq. Says he who created man from a mere clot of congealed blood. Says khalaqa al-insana min alaq. So Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram. So read and the Lord is most bountiful. So he says Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram. So allazi allama bil qalam. So he who taught the use of the pen. So he says allazi allama bil qalam. So allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. So taught man that which he knew not. So allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. These were the first 5 verses that he heard. And as soon as the angel departed, terrified, sweating all over, he runs home 3 miles south to Mecca to his dear wife Khadija, and he says, "Cover me up, cover me up. There's something terrible has happened." So she covers him up. When he gets out of his excitement, he explains to her what he had seen and what he had heard, fearing that something has gone wrong with him. Now, this is not the way impostors behave. An Arab telling you that he ran home to his wife is the most despicable thing for an Arab to confess. Muhammad confesses, "I ran home to my wife and I told her, cover me up, and this was his reaction. These were the first 5 verses. And subsequently, during the next 23 years of his prophetic life, according to the needs of the time, according to the problems that cropped up, he was given verses, chapters, which are now recorded in the Quran, this Quran here. So, he has something to say.
May I ask a further question?
Yes, yes.